When I first met Tracy, one of the most exciting things about her was like the take over the world mentality. I was like, I want a woman that I could literally compete with. I'm like, how much money do you make? And she'd be like, 20 grand. And how much do you make on that deal? I'd be like, 21, And we had that relationship before. We were constantly chasing each other and competing, and it was awesome. And then when we had kids, I was gone.
Nobody tells you how hard marriage is. When you get married, they're like, yay, it's a party, it's awesome, have this great time. But nobody ever counsels you or tells you what actually goes on when you get married.
So I come downstairs, she's sitting in the kitchen, and, I'm all flustered. I come stomping my feet. I come in the kitchen. I'm like, listen, you need to start putting out. And she's like, excuse me? It's like, yeah, you need to start putting out. How'd that make you feel?
Awful. It was a horrible thing to say to your wife. Real zingers that you have said to me in our relationship that I can never forget. Marriage is so hard. It's such a simple thing, but it's so hard because it takes consistent effort all of the time. It's never something that you can take your foot off the gas.
I think we 100% did grow apart for a while there, and that's what the biggest turmoil was in our marriage. I was just focused on the business. I'm being an asshole. I'm sitting in the basement playing Fortnite, or sitting in my office playing Fortnite during the afternoons when I'm not working. I play Fortnite all night, and then I'm drinking every night. Tracy was focused on personal training, health, becoming a better person. Like, we're in two separate areas, and she was trying to elevate from good to great. What brought us back together, though, was getting aligned on like where we're going. What does our vision look like? What does retirement look like? What are we going to be doing when the kids are gone? I want to travel all the world. I want to be able to work from wherever I want to work. I want to do awesome speaking engagements, and I want to work with people to help them build businesses. What do you think about that? She's like, that sounds like a great idea.
If you're growing, you're constantly evolving and you're changing and you're becoming better. And that means that your partner has to constantly evolve and grow and change and become better in order to love you where you're at.
Life isn't what happens to us. It's what we make together. I'm your host, Randy Vlasic, and welcome to Life is What We Make It, built on 5 pillars: identity, vision, people, mastery, and momentum. Now let's get into it. Welcome back to Life is What We Make It. I am your host, Randy Vlasic. I have a special guest, the best guest that I'm ever going to have on the show right here. My wife, Tracy Vlasic. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm so excited to do this episode with you. You look great.
Thank you.
There's a lot of things that we've talked about and sharing. And to start this episode, we really want to talk high level about some of the things that we've done through our journey in our career. I know some people have asked for some different questions and things like that, not just our career, but our relationship. And we'll split this into a series. So it'll be pretty much high level overview on some of the things that we've done to get to this point, and we'll break this into a couple different episodes moving forward. So excited to run this with you. But at the beginning of this episode, why are you looking at me like that?
Just listening.
Did I say something wrong?
No, not at all.
All right. But at one point in our relationship, and we've had a lot of different, I would call, evolutions in our relationship, from where we started and who we were as individuals, and then how we've grown. But at one point in our relationship, we almost didn't make it. We're 13
was
years.
Was it only one point in our relationship?
I was just going to shoot the intro and run the intro real quick.
Okay.
This is for the intro part of it.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
Please hold on.
All right, I'll just sit here and look pretty.
At one point, we almost didn't make it. We're 13 years in now. We don't really have a written operating system on our relationship right now. We do have a system that we follow. We have one that we run every single day, but there's not really a name to it. So tonight, we're going to try to dig into that, and we're going to try to put a name to this. And this is something that we're going to break in to multiple series. I don't like that at all. That's trash. Why does I sound so like, okay, man, I can hear myself so much. Anyways, we'll see how this goes.
I think you should try and be a little less formal.
All right.
Just be Randy.
Okay.
Randy's not 100% polished. Nobody is.
Raw.
We're all raw, man. Come on.
All right. So at one point in our relationship, we almost didn't make it. We're 13 years in now. There is a process to how we work together, and definitely clear roles on the things that we do each day. And so we're going to talk a lot about that today. And we're going to talk about how we got to this point, because I think this has to be like a hook. It's not a hook
Why does it need to be a hook?
because that's how podcasts work. There has to be a hook. Like it's going to be like a hook, and then it's going to run into like the trailer where it's
Okay,
like,
so the hook should be like we got together. We've been together for 17 years. We've been married for 13. And we were pregnant at 6 weeks of dating. And here's how we've made it work.
all right, I'll run with that.
All right.
Say that one more time. Actually, just run it. Go ahead.
We've been together for 17 years, at least. We've been married for 13. And after 6 weeks of dating, we were pregnant. And here's how we made it work.
Boom.
Boom.
All right, that's it. That was great.
Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
All right, let's dig in. Tracy, give us your intro. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background.
Well, how about our background first?
Well, listeners already know me.
Well, but they know you as an entrepreneur. Do they know you as how you started?
That's a good point. Not really, not on this episode. I've talked about it in another podcast, but you want to start with my intro? Ladies first, you go first.
Okay. I mean, I just feel like we should share our intro. We were first of all, we went to high school together, which probably most people don't know. You were a year older than I was in school-wise, but we're only a month apart age-wise. He's very young, August for the year. I'm late September. So we maybe knew of each other during high school, but we didn't run in the same crowds. And we both, why are you laughing? We both started working for a multi-level marketing company, and I was there first. Randy walked into the office, and I remember you had your black eye.
I did have a black eye.
Uh-huh. The natural attraction, I suppose, to the bad boy. He was a good-looking young man, and we became really good friends for 2 years. He was in a long-term relationship for 5 or so years. I was in a long-term relationship for about 6. And the more time that we spent together, the more everybody around us could see how into each other we were. And then it took one company trip, and that was pretty much all it wrote.
Yeah, it was a great intro.
Yeah.
That's a great us intro.
I mean, it's just a story.
Well, where'd you get started? Tell us about the intro before Randy.
Like just in life?
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up very well. I have a brother. I have 2 parents. I had a great childhood. I'm fortunate to live in the town that I was raised, and I love it here. I'm so happy to raise my family here, but I was going to school to be a teacher, and that just wasn't really what I wanted. I wanted to make a lot of money at the time, and so I left school, and I started working for the company that I met you at because they told me I could make as much money as I wanted to.
That's how we both ended up at that company.
Entrepreneurs at heart.
Yeah, I think, for me, I haven't really talked much about this on the show. I had a very different childhood than Tracy did. We didn't have an abundance when I was a kid. My parents were divorced at a young age. I had a great mom, but she battled alcoholism and all that stuff, and it was challenging. I think one of the things that really drew me to Tracy at the beginning, wasn't just like the drive and the motivation and all that stuff when we met in the multi-level marketing company, but it was also the family aspect of it. When I met her and I met her family, I was drawn to the family dynamic as much as I was drawn to her. She was a beautiful woman and outgoing and motivated woman that wanted to take over the world. And that was enticing to me. But in addition to that, like her family was it was such a solid foundation. Like they loved each other so much. They always were there for each other. They went out of their way to do nice things. They had family dinners together all the time. And so I was drawn to that just as much. I think it played a big part in us getting started too. And I spent a lot of time at her house, like
a lot of time. My family was very accepting of you.
Mm-hmm.
They love you from the beginning. They loved you.
Yeah, but they had questions for sure.
I mean, we fucked up a lot. We did some wild shit.
So we go on to meet after high school, and I didn't really know Tracy in high school. But we go on to meet at a company called Primerica. It was a multi-level marketing, insurance, mortgage, and investment company. And the whole part of MLM, if you're not familiar, is like this dream of building this empire and income levels that you've never even thought of, millions of dollars a year. And we were both excited about that. I was so excited about that. I mean, I had nothing. I had no college education. She dropped out of school because of the dream. Like, we were so stoked about it. And we end up going to this like Monday meeting, and it's like a hoorah session, like everybody's like cheering and clapping. It's just like an environment and a culture that you would never even, you'd never see it in corporate America. And for the person who's like looking for that, like it draws you in, right? So that I remember walking in, and I saw Tracy, and I'm like, man, this, like, she's hot. And she's like, oh, Randy, we went to high school together. And I was like, oh yeah, what was your name again? and anyways, so we started working together, and we worked together for probably 2 years.
Yeah, I think so.
And we were, for sure best friends in the office. I mean, we competed all the time. We picked on each other and flirted all the time. The one time I covered Tracy's entire office from like every single inch of it with Post-it notes, including the chair, the desk, the laptop, all of it.
Right before the Monday meeting.
That's
that
right.
we had guests coming to, which I would use my office.
Yeah, but none of the rest of us had offices. So like, I didn't think anything of it, but every single inch. It took us, I had like a couple of recruits that I recruited with come and help me. I was like, you guys have to be here early because we have to get this done. And we used to go out every single Monday afterwards, and we would go out to a bar and we played Big Buck Hunter and compete in that and hang out a little bit. And so we just became really, really good friends.
We did.
And, but we didn't spend any time together outside of work. And I think, when we get towards the relationship piece, I always knew, I was like, after I broke up with my girlfriend, I was like, man, if I can get this woman to give me a shot, like I would marry her in a heartbeat. Like I knew that right before we even started dating. And she felt the same way. But
about marrying you?
Yeah.
Probably not. No.
So I that's how I felt about her, and I ended up breaking up with my girlfriend at the time. We were together for a long time, and it wasn't a good fit. And it took a little while, and I kind of hung around, and then eventually she broke up with her boyfriend, and the rest is history. We started dating. That led very quickly to a baby.
Sure did. About 6 weeks in.
Was it 6 weeks? That was it?
Well, I mean, it was probably 6 weeks at conception. We probably didn't find out, maybe for like 8 weeks or 10 weeks. But
Right.
I mean, at that little of time, who really cares? It was fast.
Yeah, we were.
And I was on birth control, just so that everybody knows.
Yeah, 99.9%. So I'm not just an entrepreneur, but I'm also 0.001% in the baby making category.
Toot toot.
So, moving forward, we were this young couple, just a few months into dating, and now we have this baby on the way, and we're like, holy shit. Like,
we don't have a place to live. We can't pay our bills.
Yeah. I mean, at the multi-level marketing company, I did really well with it until I met Tracy. And then
we spent all our time in bed.
Sure, yeah, we did. I mean, that's how we made the baby. A lot of practice. And, so when we were spending so much time together, like we were selling insurance when we had to sell insurance to pay the bills, like we weren't actually going out to build anymore. And I'm sure that was probably the time that your parents were like, what is going on?
That was probably the time.
So fast forward a little bit. We have this baby on the way. We introduce our parents to this new joy that we have coming into the world. And obviously they're all shocked, but they're open and excited about the idea. But that was like a turning point for me. That was like the first time in my life where I was like, holy shit, like I got a life that's going to depend on me. And it's not just Tracy, but now I have this kid, and like, what kind of man do I want to be, and how do I want to show up in my life? And, all I knew as a kid growing up was like, I need to make money. That was the ultimate driving factor. I need to be able to support my wife, support my kid. So I was constantly looking for ways to make money. At the time, Tracy's pregnant. I need to figure out how we're going to make some money. So I was working at Primerica, still selling insurance, mortgage, and investments. I was working at CompUSA in the evenings. I was commission-only sales for retail electronics. At the same time, I was bouncing at a really large bar close to the house on some weeknights and on the weekends. And I was working seasonally at UPS at
Mm.
4 in the morning, loading and unloading trucks. I guess that's where you could say that my logistics career kind of started. Anything you'd add to that? What are you going back to that time in our life? Like, what are you thinking? How do you feel about all this craziness that's going on?
I mean, it was wild. I was the type of person, not that I didn't think that I wanted kids, it just wasn't something that I had thought about for my life at that point. So when that came around, it was maybe less of I'm worried about paying the bills and more of how do I take care of a baby because I am the youngest. So I didn't spend any time around a lot of little kids. So that was maybe more of my concern. And I remember very specifically saying to you, so does this mean you're going to like pay my bills now? Because I was a very independent person. I mean, I have worked 1 or 2 or 3 jobs since I was about 14 or 15. So thinking of somebody else paying my bills was really weird for me, but I felt that I needed to say that to him just to at least make sure that we were on the same page because we had never done this before. So I was maybe more worried about being a mom than paying the bills. But it was a wild time.
Yeah, and I was burnt. I was dying on the inside. I mean, I was making barely any money and working so hard. And I was like constantly looking for an opportunity to make more money and something that was more regular so I can have a family life. And it led me to freight.
Yeah.
You know, I had a friend of mine who was two friends of mine actually that were both in logistics. One of my buddies, his sister's family owned a logistics brokerage, and you know, he reached out and he's like, "Hey man, you're good at sales. Like you should come work over here." And I went and interviewed, and I got a job, and it was you know $35,000 a year base salary plus commission. Um, you know, I was making maybe 90 between all the jobs that I was working previously, but the commission part is what stuck out to me. You know, I was always commission driven, and they had this program, an agent program that I wanted to be a part of, and it was commission only. And so they were going to teach me the ways to do it, and I was excited about it. And I started in sales. I think my first year I made maybe like $70,000 or $90,000 my first year, and then I made 120 my second year. I think by the time I ended up leaving, I was close to 200. But the lifestyle wasn't any better.
It was awful.
Yeah, it was like
Nonstop.
Yeah, it was like being a doctor on call. And I used to always tell myself too, I'd be like, well, you know, doctors get paid so much money because people can call them at any hour, any time of the day. So why should I feel any different about it? But I remember like literally when our daughter was like 1.5, you know, we're sitting at Disney World, like waiting in line to see Snow White. And I'm sitting on the phone, taking calls from customers, booking orders because that's what I had to do. And there was nobody else to help. I didn't have assistants or anybody else on my team that could do it. It was just me. I got to a point where like I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like we just had Eva at that stage in our life.
Mhm.
We'd just gotten married. We just bought our first home.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, I hate this life. Not the life that we had built, but I hated my work life. And I was like, I have to find another path. And that company I was with made a couple changes, and it kind of forced my hand. Like I was the structural changes that they were making were going to have a significant impact on my income. And so I had to make a choice, and I had to say, you know, I'm going to have to move to a different industry, or I'm going to take a chance and start this company. And I did. And that was a wild ride. So now at that time, you're not working.
I mean, I've always done small things. Like when Eva was first born, I babysat. So she was 3 months old. I started babysitting a 6-month-old. So I had 2 babies at home to the person who doesn't know how to take care of children at all. And so I raised them together. And then I still did a little bit of mortgages investments for a while. I did some Arbonne, which is another multi-level marketing company. So I was always doing like small things in the background, but my primary focus was always family.
I got ahead of our story because at the beginning we were renting, and that's when you were babysitting. You
Yes.
started babysitting there, so she was raising our kids and raising two other little girls at the same time. And then I was out working. But then we bought our first home after we got married. We skipped our honeymoon and bought the home.
Correct.
And then I left that first role on a limb to build a company, and we used all of the savings that we had. I think we saved up we had like $48,000 in savings that we used to start the business, and then we took another, I think, $12,000 from your grandma.
20.
20?
20.
Was it 20? Oh man.
Yeah, I hooked us up.
Yeah, she did.
She was awesome.
So then we went to Tracy's grandma. We asked her for another 20,000 on top of that. We had started this franchise and with a partner, and man, what a wild ride that was.
You guys hit the ground running though, because you were already previously established. So it was like you were learning new things with the franchise, but the business was already running. You were making money right away. So there wasn't like a lull in the money. It was really more like, switching lanes.
Yes, and getting sued.
Yeah, well, that part really sucked.
Yeah, so I can't go too far in detail onto this part of the life, but long story short, me and my best friend started the business. We got sued. We litigated through that. We ended up settling in an agreement, but through that entire time, we had this new business, we had a new family, we had a new home, and we were litigating, and it was
I'm pretty sure at that point we had another kid too. We had little Rand by then.
oh, we did, yeah, and we had our second baby coming. We're just drinking from the fire hose every single day, like cheeks puffed wide out. And I remember like Tracy was handling the home front, and she always supported me so much. I would go into the office at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then from like any time outside of 7 to 7 p.m. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. was business time because I had to work with East Coast and West Coast clients. But then outside of that time, anytime before that, or anytime after that, I was chasing money. I was collecting on invoices that we need to get paid on. I was reaching out to customers, working on admin work, QuickBooks, whatever it was. So I was constantly at the office. I mean, I was there probably 15, 16, 17 hours a day.
Yeah, you were never at home.
And Tracy was handling the home front, both of our kids and somebody else's kids. So all of the stuff that we've done, I think we've realized what areas we need to kind of step up into, and what areas that we want to, what are our strengths and what we can do to support each other in that journey. And I think we've done a pretty good job on understanding those roles and responsibilities. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I feel like that's pretty accurate. I mean, we had painted a very nice picture, but there were struggles all along the way. We had loved each other, which is probably what's kept us together as long as it has, considering all of the hardships we've had, but they were really hard times.
Yeah. A lot of crying.
For you.
Yeah, a lot of crying. And Tracy's always been, she's been there to pick me up in the hardest times ever. Like when I am emotionally losing it, like she's definitely a rock that's like, come on, you got this, let's go. Like she always saw the potential and believed in me, and she brought the best out of me, and took me out of the darkest moments of my life. I think that was one of the reasons that enabled us to be successful. Like I could have never done it without the support of my wife and my partner to push me forward, make me a better person, challenge me when I was doing stupid things. And I did a lot of stupid shit all the time. And
all the time.
It took forever, but she's just constantly persistent and just always was working on not just herself and our family, but always on me too. Like she was always bringing good things to me. It was, podcasts, stories, books, ideas, things that she learned, things that she observed. And I think that helped shape me in a way that I never would have done by myself. I always say that I would have been dead, been ditched if I would have never met Tracy. So
goner.
Yeah, so here we are. So fast forward now, that business takes off, do a great job with it. That was 2014. Now 2016, we get an offer to sell our business back to the company that we were buying into. As a business owner owning the franchise and wanting to be a part of the bigger picture, it was exciting to me. You know, I loved what we had built, but I wanted to be a part of something bigger. That was always like a motivating factor for me. So when I got the opportunity to sell the business back to the franchisor, I'm like, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to take some chips off the table, you know, put some money in the bank, be finally at a point in my life where I can say, you know, I'm not set for life, but I have an emergency fund and a backstop. And now I get to be a part of this bigger journey, and I get to help make an impact, not just on our office, but on, you know, I think at the time we were somewhere around 40, 50 offices, something like that, maybe even more. Actually, maybe it was 80. I think we're the 32nd franchise to start. So we're the number 2 franchise in the company at the time, and we get this offer to sell our company back, and we do. And so we make an agreement to become part of the larger picture and corporate, and we help consolidate some of the franchises. That was an additional journey in itself. I mean, that was the first time that we had ever had any money in our life. We were always like trying to make money, and I was making 200 grand for a long time. You know, when you have a family and a home and all that stuff, like, and a single income, you know, and
Goes quick.
yeah, I mean, so that was the first time we came into money, and wow, did we come into it? We spent it.
You had a good time.
We had a great time. We bought all kinds of stuff, furniture. I mean, we spent a lot. We were for sure.
We didn't spend totally ridiculous, though. I mean, we got things that were probably necessary-ish for the most part. We always took nice vacations, but that was something for me that I always grew up with.
Yeah,
that was an
sure.
expectation for me. You didn't travel that much as a kid. For me, I always traveled. So like travel is an expectation, you know, I should have a nice mattress. That's an expectation.
Yes. So we definitely started investing into nice things.
Yeah.
We didn't go out and buy like, you know, Lambos and any of that kind of shit, but
We did not.
we did invest in nice things and nice vacations. And you know, that was the first time in our life where like we didn't have to worry about money ever. You know, like if we wanted something that we would go and we would buy it. If we wanted to take a trip, we would take it. If, you know,
Kids needed something, no
that
problem.
was it.
You want to be in activities? Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, you know, it was a great time, and we were saving a lot of money too. You know, and as we kind of moved through that earnout after selling the business, like I didn't really know what the next step was after that. And I don't think Tracy even really knew. Like, did you ever think of like, what are we doing after this thing is up in this 3-year contract?
To be honest, I couldn't even tell you if I remember that there was a 3-year contract. I was just like riding the wave, man. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah. So I got a 3-year earnout agreement. So we have to hit these numbers over 3 years, and then that's the end of the contract. And I remember, you know, talking about it and with the owner, and he was like, well, it's like a sports contract, right? So like if you're killing it, you renegotiate the sports contract when the contract's up. And unfortunately
Your sports career was over.
COVID
Yeah.
ended my sports career.
Bummer. It's like an injury.
Yeah. When COVID came through, you know, we expected this huge downturn in the freight market. We laid everybody off. I don't know. We laid off, I want to say, a lot of employees, 3 digits. And that was mainly my team through the regional offices that I was managing. And at that point, like my earnout was up. I was asking for things that definitely didn't make sense for the owner at the time. I wanted equity in the business, and they were so far along. Like there was no way. Now I think back on it, I'm like, I get it. Like that didn't make sense. I would have done the same thing.
Right.
And so I left. And then here we go to Lumi Logistics, where it's 2020. I'm like, I want to take a year off. COVID's happening. I don't need to work right now. I want to take a break, relax. I've been working so hard for so long. And for 1 year, you know, I incorporated the business. I put a few things together, but I really didn't do much. And I think that was probably one of the lowest times in our relationship, because, you know, I talk about this myself, but I lost my identity at that point. Everything that I built was built around that business. You know, when that business was gone, I didn't know how to be a dad, like really, and that had a full-time schedule. I didn't know how to dad like that. I didn't know how to husband like that. You know, and, you know, we got a camper and we started camping to try to do some stuff and get some time, but I was losing it. And I'm sure, I mean, I know that it was a tough time for you. I'm sure everybody wants to hear your side of what happened.
Well, throughout our marriage struggles, you mentioned your mom. We had alcohol issues pretty much from day one, but it was not obvious to probably me or you because we were so young. That's usually what young people do. You're like 22, you're drinking all the time, you're partying. That's just what happens. But when you fast forward to a family and children, and you start to kind of reevaluate what's important to you or your expectations in a relationship or boundaries. And so that was something that I was constantly refining, which I feel like you were not. You were just the same person, at 22 that you were at 25, that you were at 30, that you were at 35. And by that point, when COVID hit, I had pretty much had enough. And I pulled out every stop that I could. I read so many books. I listened to so many podcasts, give away what you want to receive back. So I tried that for 4 or 5 months. I'm like, I'm just going to be the best wife that I can be to him. I'm going to give him what he needs because I know that that's going to come back to me. And that didn't work. I'm going to ultimatum him, no more drinking, that's going to be enough. And that didn't work. So when COVID hit and you literally didn't do anything, and I mean, literally nothing except for drink and play Fortnite. I started working. I created my own business and personal training because I was one, like somebody has to fucking make a little bit of money around this place. And number two, I was a little bit worried about where we were going to go from here. So I kind of needed something in my back pocket, like if I needed to fall back on something. So I started working, and that's when our relationship really turmoiled because we literally flipped scripts. You were staying at home doing the mom thing, but not doing the mom thing. And I was working, making money, but not making anywhere near enough money that would support our household. So that was so very, very hard for me. I mean, you talk about your dark times. There were some really dark times for me. Both of us came into this marriage thinking we're never coming out of it, So having a 50th wedding anniversary is on my bucket list. So for me to throw in the towel, that means all of these other things I'm giving up on, and I don't give up on things easily, if ever. So that I don't know, maybe the fact that I'm stubborn, it was a really hard thing for me to give up. Also, the fact that I really loved you and I knew that you could be the person I want, not that I wanted you to be, but that you could be your best version of yourself. But maybe, I don't know, probably 2 years ago, there was a time where I thought I can't be in love with the person that I think he can be. He is showing me who he is, and that is not the person that I want to be with anymore. And that was probably our rock bottom when I said that to you.
No doubt. No doubt. It was a wild time. I didn't, I remember feeling like there was a time, like the Fortnite thing, I started playing with the kids because I wanted to play with them, but then I used it as an outlet. Like I used Fortnite as an outlet. I used drinking as an outlet to bury myself away. And um, I would spend hours doing that just to get my mind off of things and the pressures of life and the stress and Tracy sometimes too. Like I wanted to hide from him because I had this moment of disgrace and it sucked.
Shame. Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible.
I'm not really probably an easy person to live with either when I'm wanting something. I have extremely high expectations of myself, which means I have extremely high expectations for the people around me, including my husband, my children, etc. So to watch him not meet those expectations, I was absolutely a nagger.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, she wouldn't let it go. And it was not as it just high expectations, but it was high turnaround. It's not that I expect you to be this and I expect you to be this fast. It wasn't this can, it took a long time, and constantly having those expectations and asking for those things over and over and over again. It took me a long time. As much as some of those things I wanted to switch on and do, I could switch on temporarily.
Yeah.
And then they would switch off
Right.
harder.
Which actually means I'm quite patient.
You're right. That's just maybe my perception of how I felt at the time.
But when I've been patient for a long time and the, the spot is not being hit, I'm like, what are you doing? Let's fucking go. You said you were here. You're here. Be here.
Yes.
That I ride pretty hard.
Yeah. And she would constantly deliver things to me like, hey, I watched this podcast. You should listen to this podcast, or listen to this guy in marriage, or listen to this guy in drinking, or what are you doing about your drinking? How are we going to handle that? And constantly always like digging in on like my biggest opportunities for me to uncover the potential. And then finally at the moment we're sitting at the table and we have a counselor and she's like, I don't know if I want to do this shit no more. And I was like, fuck.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What I mean? I mean exactly what I just said.
I was like, when I signed up for marriage, my faith says no. It's till death do us part. You can't.
I was dying. We were dead.
Yeah. Like,
that was it.
You can't hit the cancel button. God says no. Like you can't end
He
this
says,
journey
go be happy.
Me.
You have one life, baby. That's what he said.
And that was a wake up call for me. I had to start figuring some things out. Even then I wasn't perfect. Like I've had these ups and downs, and I've always, it took me a long time to come out of it, but I would take 3 steps forward and then I would take 2 steps back, and 3 steps forward and 1 step back. And the more that I did it, I think the better that I got at it. I mean, you can talk a little bit about how I've changed since that and how long it's taken. I feel like, God, as a husband who, if you look back, is sitting here stuck in the worst depression of their life, trying to escape every reality possible through video games and alcohol, to try to think about the journey to build back out of that and get yourself to a good place is intimidating. You're like, I don't even know if I can do this. It's so hard. And not only the changes, but as a husband, you make changes, right, to try to impact and give the people around you that you love the things that you want. But that feeling that they have on all the things that you've done wrong, or all things that I've done wrong, like that feeling doesn't change immediately. And I think that's just as hard as like taking the first step in that journey. The second part is like realizing that, holy cow, I've been such a shitbag for so long. The feelings that I have ingrained into my family and my wife and my kids, like the way that they have seen me and the way that I've shown up, like those are real feelings that have been there for a while. So to try to try to change their feeling of myself and who I am, and get them to realize that I'm making those efforts, I think is also a very challenging thing, because I would feel like, what do you mean? You want me to show up and do things around the house? I'm like, I just cleaned the garage. I just did the dishes. I just vacuumed the house. Right. But that doesn't change the way that years of not doing those things makes them feel in one setting, right? It's consistency over time. It's the mastery of doing those things that finally gets the feeling to change. Can you talk more about some of that stuff?
I think it really started with me the thing that we never did in our marriage, which I would encourage everybody to do, is to lay out some clear boundaries and expectations. Because as a partnership, for me, a lot of the times I expected you to read my mind. I wanted you to know what I wanted, when I wanted it, when I didn't want it, when it would change from here to there. And that is just a recipe for disaster. So I started to clearly lay out some boundaries and expectations, and you had a really hard time with that in the beginning, but I was unwilling to budge. And when we would go into conflict about that, you would escalate, and I would monotone that shit. You are not pushing me to a point that we're going to yell at each other. I don't like yelling. Very rarely do we ever cuss at each other. But when I would come to you with something, your immediate response would be, you would be defensive. Well, you do this. Well, I only did that because of this, or da, 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 da. And I'd be like, no, this is what we're talking about right now. This is what you did. I am no longer willing to accept either that behavior or whatever that you did. That is not something that I need or want in my life. So it was me building my boundary And the expectations that I have for you as a husband and a father, it's not me giving you a list. You wanted a list. Just tell me what I need to do and I'll just check them off. That is not the type of partnership that I'm working with. I want to be a team, you know? I want you to initiate things. I want you to, what's the word I'm looking for?
Lead.
Not yet. Yes, that, but I want you to intentionally, I want it to be intentional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see that I'm having a bad day. Babe, I got dinner. Don't worry about it. You know, those little things that make such a difference in somebody's life when you know that they're thinking about you and you didn't have to say or ask for something. That's when you feel real love, or that's when you feel really taken care of and safe. And the safer that I became and felt, the more feminine that I could be with you, which is really the roles that we fell into. I want a masculine man. I want a leader. You want a feminine wife, but like for a while underneath, you really wanted like a producer as well. And I think that was maybe something that you had to let go of as well.
I sure did.
You sure did, man. You were like, do those damn dishes and laundry and cook and build a business.
Yeah. Gosh.
No, I don't want to do that.
You know, when I first met Tracy, one of the most exciting things about her was like the take over the world mentality. I was like, I want a woman that I could literally compete with. I'm like, how much money did you make? And she'd be like, 20 grand. And how much did you make on that deal? And I'd be like, 21, you know? And we had that relationship before. We were constantly chasing each other and competing, and it was awesome. And then when we had kids, I was gone. Like I didn't have that competition with my spouse anymore. Like that friendship that we had, everything changed. It wasn't
just more of that like competitiveness, because that was a huge thing in our relationship, given the environment we were in the beginning, is we were always competitive, which we're very competitive people.
Yes.
And that was gone.
Correct. And so that was challenging for me to let go. You know, I always had this expectation. I was like, what are you doing? Like, you have skills. Like, you are so good. Like, you can make $1 million doing this. You can make $1 million doing this. I'm like, if you just let me do 90% of the work for you and like just stick you in this box and it'll produce. I know it because I know who you are. And I've worked with so many people. Like, I know this thing can work. She'd be like, meh.
I don't want to do that.
Like,
I don't fucking want it.
Oh my God. All right. But then after the acquisition, then she got a personal training license. And even then, like, she's
after
like,
the layoff.
After layoff, she gets her personal training license, and I'm like, all right, here we go. Now she found something that she loves. She's done some amateur bodybuilding competitions. She's really good at it. Like, now I see maybe that passion comes back, that the drive to take over the world comes back, because she has something that she's passionate about doing. It's not just these bullshit jobs that make extra money. And, you know, when she started the personal training thing, I'm like, oh, babe, this is great. She's excited about it. She's like, yeah, you know, I'm going to do some personal training, make some extra money. I was like, we're going to start a nutrition line. We're going to build gyms all over the country. Like, I was ready to take over the world. And she's like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to do that? I
set up this meeting for you with this nutrition guy. Go talk to him. I don't want to fucking talk to him.
I got private label nutrition lines already set up, ready to go, that she just needs to sign off on, that we could be selling on day 2. And she's like, I don't like the way their packaging looks.
I mean, the one thing about it is I can't do it if I don't believe in it. We're never going to be fake.
Sure, of course. And we didn't have to be. We could have found a way to get it to
just didn't feel right, though. It wasn't what I wanted.
I understand. So then we throw that kibosh on it. And then it's like, you know, she stays on the personal training route. She gets into like the food side of things. And I'm like, oh my God, we could scale this. Like, I know how to scale this. We could easily produce this and make this, you know. I'm like, how much money are we spending on this? What's our cost per unit? You know, what's the margin look like? What's the revenue like? What's the investment going to look like if we want to scale this up for 100 or 1,000 or 2,000? She's like, I don't want to do that. It's like, I just like the clients I work with. Like, I care about them, and I just want to work with people because I love working with people, and I love what I'm doing, and I love momming it out and taking care of the kids and being a great wife and having some time for myself. I don't want to take over the world. And that was hard.
You had a really hard time with that.
Yeah, because the whole time that I'm trying to build, Do you want to
tell everybody what you said to me that one time that hurt my feelings? Do you remember what it was?
What, in the kitchen?
I don't know. Maybe. Are you just going to be a part-time personal trainer forever? I was like, oh, them's fighting words, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, I was working so damn hard. Like I was fighting for dollars, man, just fighting. And not little ones. Like I was fighting for every $10, every $20, and it was compounding, and like I was starting to get some income. But it was like, we got this thing right here that could turn just as much income as what I'm making right now, and she doesn't want to do it. Why? I didn't get it. So then I was like, well, after I finally, so we're going through this whole, that whole change, and I'm figuring all that stuff out. At the same time, I'm building my company. I'm being an asshole. I'm sitting in the basement playing Fortnite, or sitting in my office playing Fortnite during the afternoons when I'm not working. I play Fortnite all night, and then I'm drinking every night. And then I still expect her to put out, when I come to
Oh,
bed.
that was bad.
I come to bed.
Nothing is worse, ladies, than when your husband comes to bed drunk and expects to have sex with you.
Yeah, and this was probably like 3 or 4 times a week that this was happening. And so not only does she not want to build this business.
Is that the comment you're talking about?
What? Yeah.
Oh, that was a bad one. Keep going.
Yeah. So that's happening in our lives, and I'm like,
you gonna tell him what you said?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Okay.
So I have this wife that she's a unbelievable mom. Never one time in my entire life was I like, she's not a great mom. She is exceptional. She goes out of her way and kills it with every birthday party, every whatever it is. Doesn't matter. First day of school, last day of school. She just makes the kids' lives exceptional. Unbelievable. But now I have this wife that is not motivated to make money anymore, doesn't want to build businesses. She's relying on me to build this thing. And doesn't want to put out all the time when I want to come to bed and have sex. And I'm like getting frustrated. And I mean like real frustrated. So one day, I'd go to bed, she would turn me down, and then I'd be so pissed. I'd throw these little tantrums, and then
so unattractive.
Yeah. And then the next day, like, I'd be so pissed at her. And then finally I lost it one day. And so I come downstairs, she's sitting in the kitchen, and I'm all flustered. I come stomping my feet. I come in the kitchen. I'm like, listen, you need to start putting out. And she's like, excuse me? It's like, yeah, you need to start putting out. How'd that make you feel?
Awful. It was a horrible thing to say to your wife.
It was an awful thing to say to my wife.
Awful. And you know what? You cannot take words back. And we are in a good place right now.
Me, actually.
Can't take that back. You said it. There's been probably 4 or 5 real zingers that you have said to me in our relationship that I can never forget. And even though we are in a great spot, those still live in the back of my mind. They say that for every one bad thing that you do to any human in the human psyche, for every one bad thing you do, you need to do 10 good things to erase that bad one. And maybe there's ones that are bad enough that just can't be erased. And there's been a few of those that were so hurtful that built another issue we had in our relationship was resentment. We built a lot of resentment for each other, and you would just get very mad quickly, and you would end up saying things that either you meant or didn't mean. You can absolutely mean that because we're humans and we can say think those things in our head, but you cannot say them out loud. And you did.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Because I was pissed.
Yeah.
And I felt hurt. And I think I wanted to share some of that pain and hurt. And it wasn't until later that I started to realize that everything that's happening in our relationship, all this turmoil and all this challenge and all this stuff that we have going on, this is all my fault. It's all my fault. I think now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck was I doing? I was getting wasted, coming to bed and expecting my wife to put out. There was no romance. There was no date nights. There was no intention in anything. It was just work, drink, play Fortnite, come to bed, and want sex.
And your love language is touch mostly. I mean, I think we're all probably a lot of all of them, but your biggest one is touch. So he was expecting touch all of the time. One of my big ones is acts of service. So you're doing nothing for me. You're not paying the bills. You're not doing anything around the house. There's literally nothing where you're just coexisting in this home together, and you're still expecting me to love you the way you want to be loved when you refuse to love me the way that I want to be loved.
Right. So we get in this vicious cycle where this is just constantly going on. But I realized finally, Tracy turns me on to, and God, I was so stubborn, like so stubborn. And there were times where I was like, she's wrong. I don't believe this. I think she's saying these things to me. She's brainwashing me. She doesn't have my best interest at heart. She's trying to turn me into this thing that she wants. That's not me. And then there was a point where she introduced me to Keith Yackey, and the Married Game. And she's like, hey, I want you to read this book, listen to this podcast. So every once in a while, we'd start to get a little bit better. We'd take a walk and we'd listen to this podcast. And she'd be like, what do you think? And she'd have a very specific podcast picked out, obviously, ready to go.
Listened to it.
She's already listened to it. She knows exactly what the message is. She's like, I want my husband to hear this because right now he sucks at this. So then we would go on this walk and we would listen to this podcast, and we started doing that a little bit. And so things started to click for me for a second. And then she got me this book, the Married Game book. I go and read it, and everything starts to open up for me. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's literally talking to me in this book. I'm like, this book was written for me. Tracy was all about the Married Game. So tell us a little bit about, like, what did you see in it? Why the Married Game? Like, what were the things that you were seeing in me that you were seeing in the stuff that Keith was talking about?
I started listening to the Date Your Wife podcast first, and then they had Keith and his wife on, and I just found their podcast more attractive to me, just the way that they presented things and talked about issues that they were having. So I really dove into that podcast. I mean, I listened to pretty much every single episode. And when I started talking about laying boundaries and expectations, I knew that there were things missing in our marriage and in our life, but I couldn't actually put the words to them. I didn't know what they were. Keith did that for me. I was like, that is exactly what I want. That is the type of man that I want. That is the type of marriage that I want. So I started to listen to every single podcast. And as I'm listening to those, I'm saying in my head, my husband is never going to be this guy. I am never going to get what I want. And that was when we were in Missouri for the eclipse. And we took a 5-hour car ride home, or Southern Illinois, wherever we were, and we didn't speak one word to each other.
Yeah.
And that was the session we came back to where I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. But I mean, obviously we're fine. So we started listening together, and I started sharing, and he was still resistant. But I don't know. He just explains it so well, and he is an alpha male, and that's what I want. And it was very easy for me to figure that out after I was able for somebody else to explain it to me and to talk about it. It made me feel like I wasn't insane, to think of, and that it's okay to expect a man to do certain things. I felt bad for asking that. I felt bad that my husband was an entrepreneur and trying to make money. I felt bad asking for a date night or asking him to plan a date night. I felt bad for wanting romance. I felt bad for expecting him to show up for the kids and as a father. And then finally I was like, fucking forget that. I want it all. Mm-hmm. I want you to check every single box. And maybe not 100% of the time, but like a lot of the time. I want you to be consistent. That was a big thing that I was looking for. I was looking for consistency.
No doubt. And going back to the resentment piece too, I felt like attacked, at the beginning.
I'm sure.
I'm like, I'm showing up every single day. Nobody works harder than I do. How dare you ask me for all of these things at the same time? And at one point I was even like, okay, you want to go there? I was like, I'll show you what it's about. I'm like, I'll be the entrepreneur and I'll be the house dad. And so I came up with this challenge. I was like, I'm going to do a 30-day challenge, and for 30 days, I'm going to own the business and I'm going to take care of everything around the house. I'm going to vacuum. I'm going to make sure the clothes, every the stuff is done. I'm going to make sure that the food is on the table. I'm going to do it for 30 days straight just to prove to you that I can do it.
Because every time we fought, you always brought up the things that I didn't do. So you told me it's not that hard. So I'm going to do it all.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it lasted about 2 weeks. And the first week I felt I came out of the gate like really, really strong. Week number 2, things got a little bit wild. I was losing a little bit of steam and things were getting a little bit sketchy, but I felt like hitting the main categories. And then By week 3, I broke down, lost it, and I asked her.
We didn't make it to week 3.
Yes, we did. We made it through 2 weeks.
Yes, we made it 2 weeks.
Correct. And then in week 3, the beginning of week 3.
Okay.
This is beginning of week 3. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. What I concede, right?
How did I know that you were having a hard time was because in week 1 you cried once, and then in week 2 you had a breakdown, like a sobbing breakdown. And I said to you, we don't need to do this. All I want is for us to be a team. If you want to be a team, then let's just be a team and forget this.
That's true. That is exactly what happened. And I was like, thank God. I was like, I'm all in. Let's just be a team. And that's how it started. And even since then, like I've gotten a lot of better at things, but there's still a lot of times where like I'm
You
not
go through
perfect
waves
around the house. It's up and down.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think one of the things that we're doing better now than we've ever done before is communication.
Respectful communication.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we've gotten to a point now, and you can talk about what you feel we've done to get to a good place now, but I think it all stems down to communication. I think what we do well now is we share our feelings openly without being defensive. We're open to the ideas, we're open to the criticism, and we listen, and we try to not just hear what they're saying, but understand like how did I make this person feel? How do I feel like in their shoes? And put my ego away so I can show up tomorrow as a different person.
Mm-hmm.
I think we do that a lot now. That's probably the number one thing I would say that we do in our relationship. And it's not always great. It's not like I came up with this idea. I'm like, we're going to sit down every single Sunday and talk about our week, and we're going to plan everything, and we're going to talk about who owns what. And I think that is an unbelievable way to plan ahead, and it reduces a lot of friction in the relationship. But even then, it's not perfect. We don't do it all the time. I forget to do it. I'm doing something on Sunday. Then sometimes we'll come back to it Monday or Tuesday or the day of and talk through like, okay, what do you have going on today? What do you need help with? Or we would reach out to each other and ask for help if we needed it. It wasn't like, oh, we didn't plan Monday, so, I'm not going to go talk to him. It was like, hey, I need help. I'm going to go ask for help. Or, hey, I need support in a certain area. I'm going to go ask for support in a certain area. I think we do that well too. And you can tell me, what do you think that we're doing well now that we weren't doing before?
Definitely the communication. Respectful communication is a big one for us. Patience has been really great. I can't expect you to be perfect, nor can you expect me to be perfect on certain things. So just a little bit of compassion in that aspect. But typically when I was upset with you in the past, I would like go dormant. I wouldn't speak to you. I would give you the cold shoulder. Mm-hmm. And yes, I would do that. But a lot of the times it was for things that we had previously talked about multiple times. So there came a point where I like, this is never going to change. I literally just don't want to talk to you. It's not like I'm like, ooh, I'm going to give you the cold shoulder. It's like, I actually don't even want to see you in my face right now. So now when we have issues, I very frequently come to you and say, hey, this is bothering me, and this is the way that you made me feel when this happened. I don't want to feel this way. And then, you've gotten very, very good at not being defensive, which is admirable because I know that that's very difficult for men. So you've gotten very good at that. And it's like, you can either escalate a situation or you can de-escalate a situation. And both of us have gotten very good at de-escalating.
I think so too. I can feel when Tracy's like getting this and shutting down. She stops talking. I can feel when it's coming now, and I know it. And so there'll be times where I'll realize that, and I'll even reach out to her and I'll be like, hey, what's happening? What's going on right now? And if I know, if she tells me fine, I know it's not fine. I know like that's the number one word she'll tell me. And I'm like, okay, what do I need to figure out here?
I was just going to say, men, if you're asking your wife what's wrong, and she says, fine, you're asking the wrong question. You're saying the wrong thing. Sure. Number one, because you know that something's wrong. You know it's not fine. But listen to the question. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine. Okay. And then you're like, I asked her. I'm out. But if you came to your wife and you said, listen, I feel some tension between us. You're not talking to me as much. You don't seem happy. Can you please let me know what's bothering you? When you just come at it from a place of caring, and Keith talks a lot about asking questions, she's so much more likely to open up to you and be like, yeah, you know what? You really hurt my feelings when you said X, Y, and Z, or this really, but when you're just like, what's wrong? No one wants to hear that. That's not good for anybody.
Yeah. And I started doing that too. And there's been other times where I'm like, "What's going on, Trace?" And I'm like, "What's wrong?" And she'll be like, "I'm fine." And then I'll be like, "Babe, I can tell that something's bothering you. Like, what did I do that's making you feel the way that you're feeling? Can you explain it to me?" And then she opened up sometimes.
Yeah, you're getting better.
So I'm realizing that, but that was feedback that she gave me in that same question because I was like, what do you mean? I've asked you 3 different times what the heck's going on. What do you mean I don't understand? Like, you're not telling me what's wrong." It's like I would come to her 2, 3, 4 times, and then I'm getting pissed off because she's not sharing her feelings with me. And then she'd be like, "You're asking the wrong question, you idiot." And I'm like, "Okay, that makes sense." And that was feedback that she gave me that I had to sit there and say, "Okay, she's right." Right. So how do
Or
I
even, replaying this scenario in your head yourself. Do a little bit of self-reflection. What just happened that could have made her upset? Is it because I told her I was going to do the dishes and I didn't do them and they're still sitting in there? Could that be why she's mad? Probably. Is it because I said I was going to clean the garage last weekend and I didn't clean the garage? Is that why she's mad? Probably. Is it because I drank the night before and I said I wasn't going to drink? Probably. Like you are always relying on me to answer the problem instead of being forthcoming and say, "Hey, I know I said I was going to do this and I know I didn't do it. And I know that that's why you're mad and I'm sorry." And then when you say I'm sorry, that means that you're not going to repeat that behavior again.
That's correct.
That's the winning combo.
That's the winning combo.
Yeah.
Not perfect at it still today, but I am getting better.
You're getting better.
We've talked about a lot of things on this episode, and I think there's a lot of things we can unpack, and I want to come back to this later. But if there's a listener listening to the show right now and they're thinking that their relationship and their marriage is unrepairable and they're stuck, what would you say to them?
With a caveat, as long as there's no, abuse or things like that is going on, I think that if you can remember loving that person, and obviously you did because you married them, there's always a way back there. That's pretty much, there's always a way back. And I think most of it has to do with putting away your ego.
Mm-hmm. Ego is the enemy, really, at the end of the day. I think
You have to be willing to submit to your partner. And not in a way where you let go of yourself, but in a way that you let them see the real you, the way that you decide to become vulnerable and you let that piece of yourself that you've held inside and covered up and didn't want to show anybody because you were scared, or maybe you were scared that you were going to get hurt. You got to let that part out.
you said that really well. I was going to say that exact same thing.
Doubtful.
I would agree. And I think as a man, and what my experience is like, I always grew up where the norm was like the man went to work and the wife took care of the home. And I thought like I was always hitting on the things that I was supposed to be doing as a husband. And then I completely realized that I was missing the mark on everything that really mattered, you know? And I think I started to realize that too when Tracy was like, I don't give a shit about being a billionaire.
That was a big thing.
She was like, I would downsize our house, move into something smaller just to have a better relationship. And then I was like, well, shit, I want to be a billionaire. So I need to figure out how to do that and this. Seriously.
I know, man, I know.
As a man, I had to I had definitely had to let my ego go and I had to put my guard down. I had to really think to myself, like, what were the opportunities for me to grow as a person? What can I do? And now that I look back at everything, like it was all my fault. Everything was. And you can feel about what I'm saying to you any way you want to. But in my relationship and what I uncovered was when I showed up as a leader, she let me lead. And when I showed up and I intentionally gave a little bit of effort, she gave me 10 times back. And when I provided and I took care of the kids and the family, she loved me for that. But that's not what it was all about. And when I was intentional in things that I did during the day, and when I treated her the way that she was supposed to be treated, and I cared about her feelings and I cared about her as a person, and I cared about the things that she loved, and I didn't just talk about my business, but I cared about what mattered to her, and I leaned into those things. Like that's when things started to get better. And so I would just say to anybody who's in the opposite side of things, because I remember being there going like, who the hell is she to tell me I'm not meeting the needs? Like, my kids got everything they need. I'm showing up as a dad and I'm providing, but I was missing the mark in all those areas. And it was hard to figure that out. And I'm not perfect today, but I feel like I've gotten better and I continue to work on those things. And I think that's so important. And I think acknowledging that to our partners, for me to say to her finally, like, okay, I get it. It was me, you know, like that's transparency. That's trust. That's what we should be telling our partners, and not just telling them what they need to do, but also telling them where we fall short so that they know we're acknowledging the things that they want from us.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to your point, where if you do love somebody like that, that's deep in there somewhere.
I
And,
mean, we've had a rough go of it for the last 5 years, and we are at the point right now that I feel like I have my best friend back.
yeah, that's a great point.
And I am constantly looking at and analyzing the marriages of the people that are around us. And out of everybody that we know, and we know a lot, there is one marriage that we would emulate. And there's, if you take that one out of the thing, I'm not sure how many happily married couples that I know for the marriage that I want in my head that have that.
Yeah,
It's not a lot.
that's not a lot.
No.
All right, so to wrap this up, we did get some questions from everybody that we want to just punch through really quickly. So we'll just do a quick rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
What's the dumbest thing you think that we've ever argued about that became a full-blown fight?
I don't know. I don't feel like I argue about dumb things, to be honest. Your cigarettes. Is that dumb?
I mean, that was pretty stupid. I smoked for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when Eva was little, we almost had like a wrestling match because you told me that you weren't smoking, and I knew that there were cigarettes in your pant leg in your pocket, and I was trying to get them for you. So I don't know, maybe a full-blown wrestling match over cigarettes.
Okay. For me, I think food has always been a thing for me. Like, one of the pet peeves that I have growing up, like, I didn't like people taking food off my plate. We didn't have a ton of it when we were kids, and so I wanted to eat what's on my plate. And so for me, I think food is the thing. Like, Tracy's
so angry over food.
Yeah, well, would grab something, and I would be like, "Don't touch my food. You need to ask." And I'm willing to share, but if you don't ask and you take, like, I can't handle it.
Mm-mm.
And so that was it. I would say that's so stupid, but that's just how I've been. I've worked on that too. That's another thing too. Like, it's not just us; it's the relationship with the kids and the things that I have that the kids see, because the kids now have some of those same things and that we had growing up, and so we need to realize that. So that's something that I'm constantly working on even today, and it's still so dumb, but it's still a thing. One habit that your partner has that would drive anyone else insane, but you've just accepted.
Ooh, Randy's 0 to 100 in a millisecond. We're going 150 on whatever his interest is for that week, and we are dropping thousands, and he is spending hours, and it is all encompassing. And then in 3 weeks, it's over, and there's another one.
That's not everything.
It's been very frequent. You're not here to judge me. That's my answer. Your turn. And anybody listening who knows us, they are nodding their heads. Yes. Let's just say that. Okay.
All right. Touche.
Yeah.
One habit that would drive anyone crazy about my wife that I've just accepted. I don't know that there's really any habit that you do that drives me that would drive anybody insane. What I would think that one of the things that she did for a long time that I hated was she would always leave the chip bag open in the pantry. So she would, like, reach in and grab a handful, and then she'd leave the chips, and then, like, anybody else would go back in and grab some chips, and they'd be stale. And I don't know if that would drive anybody else insane, but that drove me insane. I'd be like, just close the chip bag.
It's food, guys. It's
roll
food.
it up. So we're not judging.
I'm not judging.
Okay. So yeah, I would say that's one habit that always bothered me. Outside of that, she's pretty much amazing in most other areas. Almost all the other areas ever. What's one moment in your relationship that you'd relive and redo, and why? I think I can take this one to begin with.
Okay.
I think going back, if I was talking to myself as a 22-year-old father who wanted to take on the world and it was all about money, I would go back and I would have a conversation with myself and I would just say, listen, man, like you need to understand that you got to go produce, you got to make income, but don't forget about the important things in your life. Like don't forget about the kids, don't forget about your wife, the relationship, how important that is. And, yourself. I put my career before everything. I went to a freaking event because I was winning awards versus spending my anniversary with my wife. I was doing things like that. I put my career in front of myself. I let my health go. I wasn't lifting. I wasn't exercising because I was constantly working all the time. And I was just chasing money. I was never focused on the family dynamic. And I feel like I would redo that because there's damage that happened because of that. And trying to repair that damage, sometimes you can't repair all the scar tissue.
Mm-hmm.
You can repair the wound, but sometimes there's scars there you just can't fix.
Yep.
And so I'm dealing with some of that stuff now. I deal with that not just with Tracy, but with my kids. I was just talking to my daughter today, and I'm like, hey, what's a good idea for the podcast? And she's like, parenting. And I was like, oh yeah, what about parenting? She's like, well, mom's really, really good at it. And I was like, well, what would you say to me? Like, what about me? And she's like, you're mediocre. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, well, what's one thing that I can work on? She's like, let's say you weren't good, but you're getting better. And that to me was exactly what I needed, because that means that I'm repairing that relationship and the things that I'm doing are finally starting to show. Now, I'll never get back to perfect. I'll never get to Tracy's level in that arena, but that's something I'm constantly working on. So that's something I would redo. How about yourself?
I think you could absolutely get to my level. It's going to take time.
But her feeling of me being at that level, I don't think will ever be there.
Maybe. I guess one thing that I would redo or relive, nobody tells you how hard marriage is. When you get married, they're like, yay, it's a party. It's awesome. Have this great time. But nobody ever counsels you or tells you what actually goes on when you get married. So I would probably lay out boundaries and expectations and what we expected from each other role wise in the beginning. And it would have saved us a lot of resentment.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Marriage is so hard. It's such a simple thing, but it's so hard because it takes consistent effort all of the time. It's never something that you can take your foot off the gas. Ever. Correct.
And we never laid out clear expectations or any of that stuff for each other or
ever.
And so it was like we were always constantly growing and developing, and we were just having this friction all the time.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good point.
Yeah.
When do you feel most like a team? When do you feel most disconnected?
I feel most disconnected when we're not communicating. Well, for you being an entrepreneur with work, I know that there's going to be times where you're busy and you're working a lot. And I've used this example with you often. When you know that you're going to be busy, I want you to come to me and say, I've got a really busy week this week, or at the end of the week, I know that I've been really busy this week and I haven't been around as much. I'm sorry. And then I want you to initiate some sort of time together or just an awareness that you haven't been around. So that's definitely when I feel most disconnected, is when you like hover in here and I feel like I'm forgotten. Most like a team is when you anticipate my needs and feelings before I have to voice them to you. When you come to me and you say, what's on your schedule today? What can I do to make things easier for you? I'm like, man, that's my partner. Or when I say something like, shoot, I got to run to go get our daughter from X, Y, and Z, you're like, I got it. Stay on the sofa. I'm like, damn, that's my partner. When I say, oh God, there's so many dishes in the sink, and you're like, just chill. I got it. It's just reading between the lines of what I'm saying and making my life a little bit easier in the small daily mundane things that happen all of the time.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I could really add to that. Tracy knows me in the emotional roller coaster that I go through on a daily basis with the stuff that I deal with. And I would say the same thing. The communication is really important, but she'll do things to go out of her way when she sees the friction or the pain or that I'm struggling a little bit to pick me up and do something nice. And there's been times where I'm like, and I got all this stuff going on, and she'll just walk in with a coffee into the office and drop it off, or or do something really nice. And I just know that she's listening. I think that's what's the biggest difference is like, it's not just the communication, but it's also listening as a partner
Mm-hmm.
to understand where your partner is, where you're at, and what I can do. So when you're like dishes, I'm like, okay, that's your calling, man. You heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Step up and take action.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like hey, can you help me with the dishes this week? It's more of me saying, listening to what's happening around me and then taking action in those things to try to take those things off of her plate whenever I can. And she does that for me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle growing individually without growing apart?
This one was a tough one because I feel like when I started my personal training business, I grew a lot and I did a lot of self-work and self-development, and you are not doing that. So I thought to myself, I'm just going to be the best person that I could be, and I hope that he follows. And then it got to the point where if he didn't follow, we were going to grow apart. So I think that you can only take the growth so far before the other person has to raise their game. Because if you're growing, you're constantly evolving and you're changing and you're becoming better. And that means that your partner has to constantly evolve and grow and change and become better in order to love you where you're at.
Yeah. I think we 100% did grow apart for a while there. And that's what the biggest turmoil was in our marriage. I was just focused on the business, Fortnite and booze. Tracy was focused on, personal training, health, becoming a better person. Like, we're in two separate areas, and I was trying to dig out of this hole, and she was trying to elevate from good to great. And we were totally different people at the time. I think coming back to that, what brought us back together though was getting aligned on like where we're going, and when we talk about where we're going together, it brings us back together and we start to work together. So there was a point where I was like, I'm like, what are we really building for here? Like, what does our vision look like? What does retirement look like? What are we going to be doing when the kids are gone? And I came to her one day and I was like, I want to travel all over the world. I want to be able to work from wherever I want to work. I want to do awesome speaking engagements, and I want to work with people to help them build businesses, and I want to travel all over the place. What do you think about that? And she's like, that sounds like a fucking great idea. Let's go. And so we have this vision of where we want to go together and what we want to do. And then when I go launch the podcast, which we've been talking about forever, or I go launch this, I'm like, hey, let's go work on speaking engagements together. Now we're aligned on what the overall vision is, and that helps us get aligned on where we're going. And that brings us back together. So then in doing that portion of coming back together, that motivates me to get on her level in another area. I'm like, okay, we're working towards this thing together. In order for me to show up and be a speaker and speak on stage and show up as a leader, I need to look like a leader. I got to get myself back in shape. I got to get myself back in the gym. I'm like, hey, finally, like, come train me in the gym. Like, you're the best that's out there. Let's put in the work. Like, come with me to the gym every single day. That's part of this journey, and I need your help. And she's like, okay, fine. I'm in. So then she changes her whole entire schedule during the day so we can go to the gym at the same time every single day and work out. Every single morning, it's like, what time are we going? And she's been working with me and losing weight. And so like that vision, overall vision, I think, of where we were going brought us back together. But then it doesn't just align us on the overall vision in the future. It aligns us on like the small little milestones that we have to hit and the little objectives and the little goals that we have to meet that overall vision. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm. If you want to travel all over the world and do all this stuff past 45, you better be in fucking good shape, because I'm not trying to do all that by myself.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm a big dude to be wheeling around.
Yeah, I mean, longevity is really what we're both looking for. We want to live a long life, healthy, prosperous. I want to be there for my children. I want to be there for my grandchildren. I want to be there for my great-grandchildren. That is my driving force.
It's the yin and yang. That was a ton. We've been running for a long time, but I had a lot of fun. I really appreciate you getting on the show. I know we've talked about doing this for a long time. We actually recorded a whole episode before once. We never launched it because we didn't know what the heck we were doing.
True.
Maybe we'll share that one day. But thank you for being on the show. Let's do this again. I think there's more that we want to unpack here. I would love to talk about your vision on health for the entrepreneurs that are out there, because you have firsthand experience in working with me, somebody who's poured their entire life into the business and as an entrepreneur. And now she's helping me kind of find how to be a good entrepreneur and live a healthy lifestyle. And so I think there's a lot you can share there, what I want to bring to the world. So let's absolutely do this again. To everybody who submitted questions, thank you so much. We appreciate you listening. We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.